I'm Vanessa Joy, wedding and portrait photographer. Welcome to my YouTube channel. Today we're talking all about micro weddings. So what I figured I would do is show off. This is the very first micro wedding that I did this year, August 8th, 2020, and I have a gorgeous Miller's album printed from it. So I figured I would flip through this album with you and talk all about the experience with micro weddings, what it's like. Do you have to wear a mask? Does anyone else wear a mask? Is there dancing, or is this footloose and everybody just does whatever they want no matter what the rules are? Well, I guess I'll keep their names out of this now that I just said we're gonna show everything else. So let's jump right into it. First of all, micro weddings are not that different than regular weddings, at least when it comes to photography. And I think photographers are very fortunate as opposed to DJs because people are cutting their receptions, they're cutting their DJs since there's no dancing. But the last thing that they're cutting right now is photographers. They still want you there to capture all of the details, like we're starting off here with this album. By the way, this is their standard Nightfall leather with a nice foil embossing stamping here and a gold gilding to match. So it actually is kind of a traditional choice that I made here, but it looks really sharp. It looks really nice and matches my kitchen, which obviously is the most important thing. So as far as photography goes, when you have micro weddings, you are doing the getting ready in the morning, all of the little preps, but there's not necessarily as many people. Now, personally, I wore a mask. I wore a mask anytime I was inside, and I don't think it matters what your belief is on whatever's going on, because I know there's a lot of them. I think it comes down to respect. You want to respect your clients and whoever is there, just put the mask on. Now, I do like these surgical masks the best because I feel that they are doing the best job at having the covering, but it's not like the fabric masks where you're breathing it in and then you can't speak and you start huffing and puffing. Sorry, you're gonna hear my son. This is my kitchen. My kids are still here. Anyway, so after getting ready pictures, your typical photos of the bride and the groom happen. Now, one of the things that you might find being different is there a bridal party? And if there is a bridal party, is it bigger or smaller? The micro weddings that I have done have definitely had a smaller bridal party. It's not your typical big one, at least for me here in the Northeast, the New York, New Jersey area. We tend to have big bridal parties, but the ones that I've had have been reasonable, 4 to 5 people per side. As far as getting to the church, every church has different rules. Again, I am masked, my staff is masked, everyone that's shooting is masked, but the guests may or may not be. So the guests are typically masked, but some churches have rules where even everyone but the bride and groom has to be masked, meaning the dad has to be masked when they're walking their daughter down the aisle, or mom as well. So that does depend on the church. This particular wedding, they did not require the bridal party, parents, or the bride and groom to wear a mask. I have been in other micro weddings where it was required for everyone except the bride and groom. All right, so ceremony pretty much stays the same. Family photos afterwards stays the same. Luckily, we shot outside for these, and once we were outside, because this was New York State, we were allowed to take our masks off. And I definitely found that a little bit easier communicating, especially with the bridal party, and how I typically shoot. I usually have a nice long lens on, so I'm backed up a lot. Even when shooting groups, I'm shooting them with sometimes a 135. So I have to yell a little bit to who I'm photographing to get them to see what's going on or hear what's going on and what I need them to do. So I want to be able to communicate, and it's definitely easier audibly without the mask. And we're far enough away, socially distant. And I have found that to be the norm. I have seen people keep their masks on outside, so that's really up to you as long as you're staying socially distant and the state that you're photographing in doesn't have rules otherwise. Now, if I was photographing this in New York City, the rule is masks on even when you're outside. So that's that. I have to say, this picture right here, because of the gilding, it's really sharp. That's a really fun one. Okay, let's keep going here. Now, you have to weigh in and probably have a conversation with your couple what they're comfortable with. This particular couple was comfortable with their bridal party and their family being in photos right next to them because they spent the whole weekend together. Everyone was with each other anyway, so they had no problem being unmasked and next to each other. So I photographed them that way. That might be different for you. That might be different for whoever you're photographing. So just have that conversation. Now, this particular wedding ended up being a tented wedding in a backyard, in the bride's family's house backyard. It was absolutely stunning, really just gorgeous. So all of the photos that you're seeing here, it does seem like there were a lot of people there, but they really only had about 40 people there at the wedding. And as you can tell, masks didn't go out the window a little bit. Again, this was in New York State. This was in a backyard, so there really are no regulations on backyards and whether or not they decide to dance or have their masks on. There's definitely suggestions, but when you're in a backyard, you know, no one's going to be watching you on there. So I'm sure I'm gonna get lots of comments on that. I'm just saying what happened, just saying what happened. They did have a dance floor, they did have a DJ, but again, it was those 40 people, those people that they were around all weekend and they're in their backyard. So that is what it is. And then we went ahead and took cake cutting shots and nighttime shots. And that's the end of the album. So this particular micro wedding was a 10-hour wedding day. And while it was a smaller wedding, again, just 40 people total, including all of the guests, it still needed the same amount of photography coverage and then ending up with the same size album as a typical wedding. So thankfully, when we do get to photograph micro weddings, there's not a lot that you're cutting. Now, I have done micro weddings where they decided to get married in a park. I got there right beforehand. They saw each other, did some photo ceremony, and then we all went on our merry way, and that took 2 hours. So there's different levels of micro weddings. And with that, I just want to make one comment on the pricing for micro weddings. You have to do whatever is good for your clients. It's going to be something different probably with every single client. So for me, I did not make any micro wedding packages that were static. I listened to my couples, I found what it was that they wanted, and then I just created something custom for them. And that's it. So I hope you enjoyed looking at this Miller's Lab album. I'll of course put a link to Miller's Lab below, and happy shooting. Good luck in all those micro weddings. Stay safe. Oh, and if you like what you see, make sure you hit subscribe, ring the bell so you don't miss a thing here on my YouTube channel. Bye.